What is it like now because of COVID and people don't necessarily want to go to a screen in a theater with a bunch of people that they don't know all breathing around them, and films are simultaneously being released. And I know that there was this Scarlett Johansson lawsuit because of Black Widow, because it wasn't supposed to be released the way it was. And what is it like to try to get a budget for a film? And like, what is the whole how much different is the whole process now because of COVID?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question. I think that the budgeting situation is, I think what's going to happen is people are obviously going to gravitate towards streaming more and more, right? And I think movie theaters may be thinned out, unfortunately, a little bit. Like there could be a few fewer theaters, but I think what'll happen is the movies that will be in theaters will become bigger and bigger. Because you'll want to it's almost like a theme park ride. You want enough of a reason to go to a movie theater to draw people out of their
IMAX
living rooms, experiences.
Yeah.
That the studios will probably pay more to create events. It has to be an event of some kind, you know. And I think you could see this stratification between larger event stuff that feels more comic booky and huge in movie theaters as events against longer format Game of Thrones style, more complex character pieces that could also be epic, that are occurring over much longer timelines that are happening at home. So I think that's probably what it will look like going forward. So the budgeting process now, it's like the budgets are relatively high in either direction there. You know, and then it just comes down to like whether what you're trying to make is viable or not. Because like some stuff I want to make is commercial and other stuff is not commercial, which is what Oats was for. I wanted to make stuff that I have an idea of how to try to monetize that going forward over time. But at the moment, it just looks like a bunch of YouTube videos, you know, which and it may stay that way. I mean, maybe we can't figure it out. But I think with the internet, there's a way for filmmakers and creators in general. I mean, it's already being proven true with YouTube creators, right? It's just that their budget levels are lower than what I need. But could you apply sort of a YouTube creator approach to high budget filmmaking? Could that work? It's an interesting thing where the audience is the only thing telling you whether they want something or not with their dollars.
Well, I always loved the ability to watch a film at home, and sometimes I would wait until a film was released on like Apple Movies or whatever it is, iMovie, Apple TV.
Yeah.
I would wait for that because I knew I wasn't going to be in a theater with people on their phone where people are talking.
Do you not like the movie theater experience?
I do, but I like a well-behaved movie theater experience, and you can't always count on that.
That's the same as me, I think.
It's annoying sometimes, so part of me was like, oh, this is great with COVID because so many of these like films are being released simultaneously in streaming as in theater. But then other part of me is like, boy, I hope this is just as financially successful because I want these great films to keep being made, and I want there to be these budgets so they can make an Avatar, so they can make these big spectacular films.
Yeah, it is a weird one also because the amount of content that's being created is so extreme, you know, that there's so much, especially on the streaming side, that's being produced.
Right.
That there are not these kind of individual Avatar, like single expenditures that are that big. It's more like thinned out over 100 different other projects.
Yeah.
So maybe you don't see that scale in a filmic sense, but I think things like Game of Thrones or where, you know, things like Westworld and high budget TV shows, I think those could presumably get bigger and bigger and bigger.
That is the thing about streaming, right? If your film is being released at the same time as all these other options in these streaming platforms, you're so overwhelmed with content. There's so many options for people in terms of like Netflix series and Amazon Prime series.
And it also makes it feel disposable.
Yeah.
Which is irritating.
Yeah.
Because it's just turnover.
Yeah.
You know, if you think of the sort of the 80s or the 90s, it was like an event to get to something like Terminator 2 or Jurassic Park. You know?
Yes.
And it's like that stuff just comes and goes now weekly because of just the volume and the level of competition.
Yeah, it's almost like when you want to watch a film, if you want to stream something, there's almost too many options. Like when you go through the top movies on iMovie or Apple TV, it's like, God, there's so many options. It's almost too much. And then with the streaming options and the thing is, there's new ones constantly. It's not like they go away. So you could go back and watch films from 10 years ago that you never saw, from 15 years. There's so many films.
Yeah.
So to stand out today, it sometimes requires like a convergence of luck and amazing talent and skill and the idea and the premise being
and the right sort of subject matter that's sort of in the zeitgeist at a certain point.
Yeah.
But I think I'm curious to see how it goes. I hope the theatrical experience stays, because I agree with you in terms of annoying audiences, but I also love it.
Yeah.
So, and as a filmmaker, I would really love stuff to be in theaters, because it is a different experience, the way your brain sort of ingests the movie.
Yeah, and for comedies, it's amazing because laughter is contagious.
Yeah.
And so when everyone around you is laughing at a film, it makes it funnier.
Yeah,
it really does. It makes it better.
It is true. I hope it stays.
I hope it stays too.